This is the Youthful and Useful podcast by Leap Africa.
But the work of a social enterprise and entrepreneur and a social enterprise as an organization is to think about building value as offering value and then taking that value to people who really need that value to also achieve their own other end of the value chain. And that way you build something, you achieve it through, or you scale it through partnerships, right? And everybody wins. The more technology you adopt, the better you're positioned to solve the problems you want to solve, faster, easier, and at scale. But given yourself, my miracles have always been in giving. All the magic that happened in Utiva happened while I was giving.
Our guest today is a phenomenal personality. He's a tech entrepreneur and the founder of Utiva, one of the largest tech talent development companies with offices in the US, the UK, and of course, Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, with us on today's episode is the Mayegun of Orile Agege, Otumba Eyitayo Ogunmola. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, do people introduce you now as Otumba Eyitayo Ogunmola, or they just still introduce you as Mr. Eyitayo?
It depends on the settings. Even at office, some of my colleagues call me Mayegun.
I love it.
I love to be called Mayegun, because it's quite very traditional. And then it takes me back to the roots, so I enjoy it, yeah.
And that's amazing because, one of the things that's special to us as Africans and especially as Nigerians is our diversity,
Correct.
that cultural diversity.
Yeah.
So absolutely, I think I'll just get to say, oh, so my But can you tell us a bit about, how you got that conferment of the title Mayegun of Orile Agege?
Yeah. So typically, Mayegun means make the world better, but English doesn't do justice to the depth of what it means to be Mayegun, because if you say make the world better, it could mean Moayedara, but Mayegun is make the world better, but it's a lot deeper than that anyway. And the work that I have done, over the years is to really go back to the grassroots, and find a better way to change people's lives. And that could be sometimes just organizing football competition in my constituency, giving free jam forms to people, encouraging young people to go away from cybercrime and do more in the education space. And it just happened that that's the king, my king, called me and said, you know what, you have to become the Mayegun for Orile Agege Kingdom. Yeah.
Fantastic. I told you we have a phenomenal personality with us today. Well, I've not even started. Can you see all the things that he's telling us already about the work that he does? It's amazing. And I hope that at the end of this podcast, you would be encouraged, to do more things for the communities that you live in, that you're a part of, and just make the world a better place. All right, so Mayegun, let's get into it, right? Let's talk about social entrepreneurship. Can you give us a bit of your background?
Yeah.
How did you get here?
Yeah.
Where did you start from? Because people are seeing you now and say, oh my goodness, Mr. Eyitayo, oh Lord, I want to be like him.
Yeah.
But how did you get here? Where did you start from?
Yeah. Most things actually started as an undergrad. When I was in the university, I was departmental president. I volunteered for more than 6 organizations, and I remember that in those days, communication was my strength. So we would go to secondary schools and, train people on sexual and reproductive health. I was a part of an organization called AC Health, gone were those days, right? So I thought that when I leave the university, it was just going to be live and everything was going to be beautiful. But unfortunately, when I left the school, I couldn't find a job.
Reality.
First year, second year, I was like, so this thing is real. So 2 years unemployed, and I thought to myself that the most exciting contribution, would be to make sure that other young people don't experience the things that I experienced. So I didn't have it figured out, as at 2012, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do. I started volunteering for organizations and teaching. I launched PM Hub. I launched HCD Center. Those were like initiatives that were designed and geared towards just training university students and getting them to really be prepared for the job market. But the major core of my own social entrepreneurial journey started when I was in the US. At that time, I realized that many of the companies that were looking for talent, were not even looking at Nigeria. They were looking at Egypt. I think Egypt was like the only African country that was
Wow.
really representing us at that time. Egypt, then many of the talents were coming from India, Philippines and Estonia. And I knew that this was a country of about 180 million people. How do we then convert that population into a strength so that we then can also export talent? So in 2015, 2016, 2017, that was what I was trying to figure out. But I didn't want to run it as an NGO, right? Because I like money. And I also wanted to do social good. So I was
Yes.
caught in between building something that is profitable, sustainable, and that could run itself, and also doing real social good and changing lives. And I think it was 2017, I was in the class where Indidi was talking about social entrepreneurship, and prior that session, my mindset was so much around non-profits, and I bought his book. I bought a book, and I started learning about the concept of social entrepreneurship and how you could design and build organizations that will be self-sustaining and at the same time do real
Social
social
good.
good. And in 2017, I made up my mind that I was going to build something around that. I couldn't really take off, until late 2018, but it was just a accumulation of my personal experience, and then realizing that that same experience was reflected at a much more global stage, and then learning from someone like Indidi, who had also written a book on social entrepreneurship, and everything just kind of like connecting. And like, I'm gonna do Utiva, and then started building Utiva. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Amazing. So I like that you took something that was a disadvantage to
yeah,
you and decided to turn it
yeah,
around and make it an
yeah.
advantage to other
Hmm.
people. So I think that I'd like to ask, did you have like a eureka moment, right? That light bulb moment
Yeah,
that made you say, you know what? Utiva it is. This
yeah,
is exactly what. So I mean, I know you had that experience,
yeah,
and then you had that session where Ndidi came to speak.
yeah,
But did you have a particular eureka moment
yeah,
that led to the birth
yeah.
of
Yeah,
Utiva?
I think for me, my personal life has never been around eureka moments or very exciting moments. My life has always been accumulation of very little
Little
tiny
things.
things that you just naturally disregard and just throw off or throw away. So I'm not going to say that there was a certain moment that I felt, oh yeah, I'm just going to be an entrepreneur or build something. For me, it's just little things here and there that I started seeing, and I wasn't exactly sure if it was going to be a thing because I didn't even start Utiva for it to really be a major organization. I just wanted to solve a problem, you know. But for if I'm supposed to think about a moment that convinced me that hey, you should go all in. It was the moment I started getting a lot of investors, talking to me about what we're building, and they were really excited about it. So these investors some sort of helped to scale in terms of the perception of what I was building, and they kind of like gave me a much more global insight into how big this could be. But I'd already started, and for me, when I also then think about all the things that I do in life, I never look for a major defining
Moment.
moment. It's just little execution here and there, and just making those little things count. And then at the end of the day, you then wake up and realize that you had made 20 things count, and then those things have accumulated into major things. And that's also like my journey. Yeah.
I think I hear you talking about consistency.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah.
just doing the little
The
things
little
and not
things, yeah.
waiting for big
Big
moments
moments, yeah.
to put things together.
Yeah,
Um, and I also hear your experiences matter,
yeah,
right? Don't discountenance any
yeah,
experience,
yeah.
whether because it was negative
True.
or it wasn't as grand as
Exactly.
you wanted it. You
Yeah,
can make something of those
yeah,
little
yeah.
experiences. So we're talking about the why of
Mm.
social entrepreneurship and social enterprise. And I heard you say the money,
I like money.
money, you like money. Oh
I
my
like money.
goodness. Money is important.
Yeah,
I mean, even to drive social entrepreneurship,
correct.
money is important.
Correct.
But how do you strike the balance,
Mm.
between building something that is profitable
Hmm.
and sustainable
Yeah,
and building something for social good,
yeah.
something that solves a
Mm.
problem, even if it is not as profitable
Yeah,
as you would want it to be, if
yeah,
it doesn't make you a millionaire
yeah,
overnight.
yeah,
How do you strike that
yeah.
balance?
You know what I tell people? There's no balance. You know, you
There's
should
no balance.
never think about money. You should never, as a social entrepreneur, you should never think about money. You should be
Even
so.
when you love money.
I mean, it's possible to love something,
Okay.
but at the center of the work that you do, it should never be money. It should always be about value creation. You know, my conviction is that it is impossible for you to create value, right? And I'm not saying offer value because you can offer value and be broke, but you can't create value and be broke because value attracts resources. And when the value is created by you, so it is possible for you to offer something that you did not create. So, for example, you can be a volunteer offering values and training people, right? But that's not creating value. Creating value is designing, building the entire value chain, and ensuring that you're able to deliver value and at the same time also capture value. And that's what I do. The core of the work that I do is thinking about how do we create, value. And an example would be when I started Utiva, we were going to all the universities and trying to partner with the universities and saying, hey, let's train all the undergrads in the school. And, we're not exactly sure where the money was going to come from. That's offering value. That's not creating value. Creating value is saying, going to the schools and then training this undergrad and thinking about the other side of the value chain that need this undergrad that is happy to pay for it. So the obsession as an entrepreneur, as a social entrepreneur, should always be about, when you're talking to the guys on your team, having conversation with people, it's always about creating value. And creating value it starts with offering value, right? But that's just a tiny little bit of it. So especially when people come to me and they say, hey, Ty, I'm trying to build something, or we're trying to solve this problem, and all I see is someone trying to offer value and not creating value. Because when I then ask questions like, who is going to pay for this? Who needs this more? Because when you're trying to help a child to learn English, right, the child is who you're helping, but who needs that value more? That's the parents, right? That's the school. Because when the child speaks better English, the parents claim the pride. So the parents are happy to pay for it. So value creation should always be at the center of the work that we do. And that's, for me, that's social entrepreneurship. So most times the reason many social enterprises are broke is because they are offering values. And when you offer value, you can be exhausted in the process. But when you create value, it's exciting because you would always unravel who would pay for this, who is excited about this, who love this, who wants to give you more resources because you're creating value. And that should be, the design of social entrepreneurship.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So creating value is different from offering
Oh,
value
yeah,
because
totally.
with creating value, you think about the entire process.
Exactly.
Who needs this
Yeah.
thing? So we're going into universities
Yeah.
to train undergrads.
Yeah.
Who needs the skills
Yes.
that we're training them, with or
Yeah.
to develop? Who
Yeah.
needs it? Who is going to pay
Who's gonna
for
pay
them
for
to
it?
have
Yeah.
those skills?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And you spoke a little about going to these universities and sort of doing partnerships with the universities, and that brings me to ask the question about partnerships.
Yeah.
How have you managed partnerships with
Yeah.
Tiva,
Yeah.
especially the challenge of, you say there is no balance, but especially the challenge of balancing
Yeah.
values, because different organizations have different values,
Correct.
and this person can pay for this thing,
Yeah.
but their value,
Yeah.
it doesn't align with yours.
Yeah.
How do you create that
Yeah.
balance
Yeah.
in partnerships
Yeah.
with different people and
Yeah.
bodies, and also
Yeah.
just speak to
Yeah.
some of the people and
Yeah.
organizations that you've
That we've
partnered
partnered with,
with
yeah.
over the
I'll give you
years?
three different examples, right? Um, Culturally, as an organization, we are so obsessed with creating value. That's the obsession. Every time we think, it's always about we are bringing something to the table. So we also need to then figure out what the other partner is bringing to the table. In fact, I'm a no fan of offering you value when I cannot capture value in return, because then that's parasitic. So I'm always thinking about we need to offer value and we need to capture value. And sometimes the value is not monetary. It's not about finances or someone has a very big budget. It could be a brand, recognition for the value that we've offered. It could be a futuristic and projected value that we will capture in return. So I'll give a very interesting example. A bank comes to us and say, we want to train 10,000 people, but we've got 30 million naira for this. And I walk away. Like, no, we're not going to do this, right? Because the value is we're training 10,000 people, and the value for them is 30 million naira. And 30 million naira is a lot of money, for an organization that is a social enterprise. But when you are a creator of value, you're always thinking about all the little elements of this. Number one could be, will my internal team be burnt out in the price of training 10,000 people? Would that mean a lot of work for us? Would that mean we will not be able to capture other relationships and partnerships because we are so busy training 10,000 people? Because we are a value creator, right? We don't want to be locked in a relationship that then gives us the disadvantage of capturing other value, right? So every time at the core of the work that we're doing is value, value, value. Another very interesting example was we built a product called the Nucleus, and we invested over $20,000 building that product. It's supposed to be an encrypted device that allows you to learn a tech skill without access to the internet. When we were investing money on building that product, many of my colleagues and many of the staffs of Utiva were like, "Oh, Eyitayo, who is going to pay for this?" And then one of the things I told them was that, guys, let's do a research. Who are the people funding people who live in communities that have little or no access to the internet? So we
right.
took that product and we took it directly to them. HP, 6 months after we had built that product, HP Foundation invested $50,000 into it. So there was no clear path to profitability at the time we were building the product. But the work of a social enterprise and entrepreneur and a social enterprise as an organization is to think about building value as offering value, and then taking that value to people who really need that value to also achieve their own other end of the value chain.
Yes.
And that way you build something, you achieve it through, or you scale it through partnerships, right? And everybody wins. And that's some sort of like what it means to drive partnership as a social enterprise. You have to think about what you're doing from the perspective of who needs this thing aggressively. And it's not necessarily who is benefiting, because we're not talking about the beneficiary.
Okay.
We're talking about the entire value chain. Who are the other players in the ecosystem that needs this thing desperately, or that will benefit from this thing, or that might also get one or two values, out of the other outcomes of the work that we are doing. And when you are immersed in that form or that paradigm, what you would see is that you will never be stranded of partners. I don't think there's a single day at Utiva that people don't reach out to us for partnership. I don't think so.
Interesting.
Partnership comes just naturally to us. I even think that we reject more partners than the partners that we
That you
actually
take
that we
on.
take on. And it's because every time you're thinking about creating value, there's an undergraduate, community that is talking to us about providing them with funds. There is an organization that is trying to do a conference that we're giving vouchers to provide scholarships to their students. Every time you think about value creation, you can never be stranded of partnership. Because people just want to, value attract value. And then value attract money.
Yes, it
So
does.
sometimes also the partner is broke. Partner doesn't have money to pay. But because you've built a partnership, the two of you then can then go look for money together.
Yes.
And that's some sort of like how we drive, stuffs at Utiva, and that's what partnership means to us.
Fantastic. So can you tell us some of the partners that
Yeah.
you've worked with over the years?
A lot. So let me
Can you
talk about.
imagine?
I'll just segment them into different categories.
Okay.
So, for example, some of our funding partners that have funded us to do projects: HP Foundation, Binance Charity, um, the Japanese government, just of recent, the Netherlands government, called the Dutch government, gave us about 400,000 euros to do a project. And most times when you think about this type of partnership, it's realizing that we have the capacity to solve the problem that we want solved. So partnership means to us from that dimension, building the capacity to solve a problem that people who have got resources want solved. And that could be the government.
True.
And that's partnership. Another partnership has nothing to do with, it's just purely monetary relationship, and that could be the bank. So 9 of the banks in Nigeria, we are helping them to drive their foundation or their graduate trainee program, right? And now sometimes people might think that the reason they are working with us is because they just want to pay and then you train. It's more than that. We always offer more than pay and train. Sometimes we give those organizations, brand visibility. Sometimes we give them free internal audit and assessment. Sometimes I give the HR the opportunity to talk to me about the problem that is going through, he or she's going through in terms of talent hiring. And then I say, you know what, I'm going to bring experts to come and do it for free. Sometimes it's offering them free master classes. We do all these things as a way to some sort of like garnish, the entire partnership conversation. So we're working with Diageo, GSK, JNC, almost 9 of the banks, working with some of these big corporations to do training for their talent and develop their talents. On the other side, there are also partners that we're working with that are not paying us the dime. JCI, ISEC, we're working with them. We're helping them to train some of their, students and members for free sometimes, and we get nothing for doing that. But these same guys that we train then leave JCI and leave ISEC and become managers in some organizations. And those organizations then say we want to do training and then refer
Yes,
back
of
to us.
course.
And that's what creating, value
Value.
actually means. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And so I'm just thinking social entrepreneurship and social enterprises are in various sectors,
Correct.
right? So why did you pick technology, right,
Yeah.
and talent management, right? So some of the top of my head, I'm thinking, okay, technology, yeah, I get that, but
Yeah.
merged with talent management,
Yeah.
okay, what's the correlation? What's the correlation? Where's the meeting point?
Yeah.
Between technology and talent management,
talent, yeah.
and why did you pick those two?
Yeah. So one of the things you have to remember as a social entrepreneur is that you really want to solve a problem that is big enough, and a problem that is big enough to keep you busy and to keep you active and thinking. Because I then see some problems that are good problems to solve, but they're not just big.
Big enough.
The scale of the problem is so tiny, And I'm not saying that you shouldn't solve those kind of problems. I'm just saying that if you really want to be a social entrepreneur and you want to have the entrepreneur attached to your name, then you want to think about problem that is worth, solving.
Yeah.
Right. And when you look at the continent that has, more than 1.5 billion people, right? And about 65% of those people on that continent are young people. When you look at a country that has over 200 million people, and 65% of those that reside in that country, that live in that country, are young people, then the biggest problem to solve for me is the problem of talent. So in terms of market size, it's worth solving in terms of the future opportunity attached to that. So we started with training, right? That's what we started with. We started with just training people. But we're moving from just training to then helping companies to find the talents that we have trained.
Yeah.
So that's talent development or talent upskilling. Now we're doing talent hiring and placement. But why technology? Because I mean, at the time I started Utiva, if you were not plugging into the technology ecosystem, you were missing out on something really big. Because technology is then the driver of many of the changes that we're seeing around the world. But we did not start with technology. We started with doing all the things we were doing physical. We're doing physical training. But we had to think about how to use technology to drive it. Because then technology helps you to drive things at scale.
Yes.
Now we have students from over 22 countries. I have never visited all these 22 countries, but we are training them virtually. We have clients, over 500 clients right now, top corporate organizations. I haven't had the opportunity to meet with them. Just while I was downstairs, Sterling Bank just signed another partnership with us. I haven't been to Sterling Bank's office.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I haven't been to Sterling Bank's office, but we can deliver all this training virtually.
Yeah.
And that's the power of technology. So the more technology you adopt, the better your position to solve the problems you want to solve, faster, easier, and at scale.
Technology makes you more global.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, so we've talked about, some of the things that have worked and helped you scale Utiva to where
Yeah.
it is today. But I want you to speak to some of the challenges, that you faced with building
Yeah.
building this social enterprise.
Yeah.
Because we have people who are about to start their
Yeah.
social entrepreneurship journey. We have
Journey,
people
yeah.
who just started and they're facing a myriad of challenges. So what are some of the challenges that you faced and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, at the beginning, it's lonely and it's tough.
Lonely, lonely, lonely.
It's extremely very lonely. It's very lonely. I
Wow.
think the loneliness is not even a conversation that we've started having, right? The loneliness comes with a lot of rejection. The loneliness comes with a lot of people downplaying what you're doing.
doing.
The loneliness comes with people not even seeing whatever you're saying. So I always tell my mentees that if you're not comfortable with being lonely with what you're building, right? Don't say that you want to be an entrepreneur. Not to now mention being a social entrepreneur. Because a social entrepreneur, you're doing social change. So in most serious conversations, people will not take you serious. Because they will see you as. I mean, when I was started, and I was the guy that was working in the US and came back to Nigeria. But every time I attend meetings, and then people introduce themselves, you hear, "Oh, my name is this. I'm a senior partner at McKinsey." Oh, McKinsey.
Fantastic.
"Oh, my name is this. When I introduce myself, I'm trying to help undergraduate learn." People just look at me like,
Oh, this guy is not serious.
this guy is
Jerry.
not a
Let's
serious
move on.
human being. So you're never taken serious, So you have to be comfortable with being lonely, right? The second elephant in the room is funding.
Yes.
Money, 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 and that's why you have to be obsessed with value creation. And be thinking about who needs my value, who can I be talking to about my value, right? So money is one major thing that cripples a lot of social enterprises. So from the beginning, I would say that if you don't have a clear business model on how you want to make money, figure it out. Figure it out. But the third thing, which was also a problem for us, was the support that we needed to leapfrog. Because to be honest with you, many people celebrate entrepreneurs like myself today, but they forget the ecosystem that built us. We would never would have made it. Never would have made it if we had not received support. It's not how. Your family would never invest in a social a social that you want to change people's life. In fact, people would tell me then that go change your own life first before changing other people's.
Ouch.
Yeah, because I mean you broke trying to help broke. You understand? Broke trying to help broke. So you have to rely on the ecosystem. Organizations like the Leap Africa that gives you the fellowship.
Yes.
because even if Leap Africa is not giving the money, the endorsement that comes with the money, with the work that you're doing.
Yes.
Because I got into a Leap Africa fellowship program in the SIP fellowship program in 2017, right? That same year, I got the Bloomberg scholarship. The next year, I got the Chevron scholarship, right? So the endorsement that
Gives you
says it gives you
credibility.
credibility. So I see a lot of people trying to do social good, trying to build social enterprises, and they're isolated. And I know you can't be isolated. You have to get into Leap Africa. You have to get into some of these organizations, let them endorse you, and then take that endorsement to the banks and tell the banks that, oh, we are a Leap Africa SIP fellow. Because the same Union Bank, let me put this out there, the same Union Bank that funded the SIP fellowship in my year was the same Union Bank that gave us our first $5,000.
Look at
So the
that.
endorsement is what is very important. So if you take away, that ecosystem support, it's very difficult, to build something. Another one I want to touch on is the human capital that you need to build, because you need people to work with you. You can't do this alone. And sometimes you need people that are smart to work with you, and you don't have the smart money to pay smart people. So you then have to start to figure out how you really want to, solve that part. And that's how we solved that at Utiva, is making a lot of noise about the work that we're doing. I literally post on LinkedIn every day. I literally have on my WhatsApp 5 things I'm talking about Utiva every day. I'm waking up middle of the night. I'm posting a picture about, hey guys, I'm waking up now. Oh, I want to go to my office. I'm sleeping. I'm like, today has been a busy day. I'm going to bed. I'm going through something. I'm posting it. You have to be the evangelist of the work that you do. That way, you now begin to attract people who love that work, and they're happy to do it for free,
Yeah.
or for less amount of money. So if you're struggling with finding people to rally around you, it's because you are not an evangelist of your work. If you are an evangelist of your work, people will naturally want to work with you, and they will love it around you. Why? Because you're talking about, people like to associate with good things, and it doesn't matter. And people resign from big corporations to come join Utiva. People left jobs of 500,000 to come take job of 250,000 because they wanted to be associated with the good that we're
Good,
doing.
yes.
And that's pretty much how to solve the kind of problems here.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So you shared 4 challenges
Yeah.
with 4 solutions to
Yeah.
those challenges. Loneliness.
Yeah.
You have to be comfortable with being lonely,
yeah.
just being in that space and creating this value. Funding. You have to move from offering value to creating value.
Yeah.
And then you talked about, I remember, the ecosystem,
The ecosystem, yeah.
that supports you
Yeah.
to build,
To build,
the
yeah.
enterprise that you're building.
Yeah.
And finally, human capital.
The talent, yeah.
You know,
people.
you have to be the evangelist of
Yeah.
the work that you're doing. Talk about, how can you be doing something good and you're not talking about
You're not.
it? What are you doing? You have to always
Yeah.
speak to the work that you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Fantastic. This has been such an insightful conversation. I think I wanted to touch on values, right? What are some of the values that you uphold personally as a social enterprise, and what are some of the values of your organization, Utiva, that has helped the organization stay grounded,
Yeah.
so that people understand the importance of having a set of values and
Yeah.
staying true to the values that you create for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, there are 3 major values that I some sort of like transferred to Utiva when we started, right? The first is the value of hard work. Yeah, the value of hard work. I always tell, I mean, in those days, I would tell my team that if it's easy, it's not worth it. It has to be difficult, it has to be complicated, it has to be something that people are running away from. That's wicked problems. And those wicked
Wicked.
problems are the problems that pay a lot, and that do it sustainably. So hard work is at the core, at the center. And I was having a conversation with you when we started. I used to take 10 cups of coffee per day.
Yeah.
I would wake up in the morning, coffee, go to my office, coffee, drive out, go to the coffee store, because I work in the coffee store or the cafe, right? And then I'll buy 2 cups of coffee. And when I'm going back in the train, I'll take another coffee. And when I was extremely immersed in the work that I was doing. And that's important. That's a value. Then the second thing is the value of giving yourself out. You just have to be ready to give yourself, you know. But you have to do that now. Now I'm learning that you have to do that with sense now when you're giving yourself, so that you're not over withdrawn, because people then when they notice that you are giving yourself, they want to
They keep
want to withdraw.
taking,
Yeah,
yeah.
but giving yourself, my miracles have always been in giving. All the magic that happened in Utiva happened while I was giving. I just told you about a 400,000 euros that we raised from the Dutch government, right? I never even knew about that. I didn't know about it. What happened was that someone was applying, and the person was looking for someone to audit, you know, his application, and then reached out to me and said, "Eyitayo, can you help me go through a 30-page application?" I'm like, guy, I'm busy. Oh."
Like tea.
Right. But
Oh.
but I did it anyway, and then I realized that he was applying for something that we also qualified for. And while I was editing his own, I was like, let me quickly do our own too now. Then we did our own and we got selected. All the things that happens at Utiva always happens at the point of giving. In fact, some of our best staff are staff that maybe invited me at some point to speak at their event, and I spoke and then converted to a staff, or maybe asked me if I could be a mentor, or just reach out to me on LinkedIn. And it's always about giving, yourself. And another one is thinking long term, thinking long term. And these are values that you don't typically would see in people's offices, but you can't do the work of being a social entrepreneur. You can't build a social enterprise if you're a short-term thinker. You have to be long-term thinker. You have to be thinking, what would happen in the next 30 years? What would happen in the next 10 years? Will this problem still be a big problem? Will this partner be a good partner in the next 5 years? Will this money that I'm taking today, will it not affect me in the next 3-4 years? Because I've taken money that have affected me.
Oh Lord.
Right? So you better be careful who is investing. Right? Because you just want to make sure that you're taking the funds that match with your direction, your aspiration, and your vision. So long-term thinking, giving yourself out, and most importantly, being ready to do the hard work, and not looking for shortcuts, because shortcuts will cut you off.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the wealth of knowledge that
Yeah.
you've shared with us. I think finally, one more question. What do you think is the best advice that you can give to people who are starting out their social entrepreneurship journey? And where do you see social entrepreneurship going, in the nearest future?
Yeah. I think that the type of problems that the world needs solved can only be solved by social entrepreneurs. Elon Musk made a mockery of the ESGs, right? Of the SDGs, of the sustainability funds, because in reality, many of these corporations are selfish. So when you take money from a major bank to do a major project, a social project, it's not because they love to solve that project. It's because they want to be seen, to be doing
Yes,
good.
to be doing, yes.
The guys that can actually solve those problems are guys that set out from day one to say, we want to solve this problem. With or without money, we want this problem solved. And those are social entrepreneurs. So the future of social entrepreneurship is integrated in the future of problems that we have in the world. And we still have a lot of problems in the world.
Absolutely.
Education, mental health, the more internet we create, the more problem we are
Problems
creating.
of creating, yes.
So we are building AI solutions now. There's a problem integrated in that, right?
Yes.
So social entrepreneurship is never going to go away. However, the entire design of social entrepreneurship will be redesigned, will be restructured. So it will be built by people, not by people who have the expertise, but people who have the integral passion to actually get that problem off and solve it. So it's not going to be by one president who leaves presidency and then starts a foundation attached to his name. No. That's not social. That's not. It's going to be by the boy who lives in, Palestine, and sees that this problem has to be solved and goes all out to solve it. Because for him, it's about his community. It's about his people. He wants the problem solved because he's extremely very passionate about it. Not because he now needs, not because I'm no longer a president and now I have to have a foundation.
Yes.
So the future
To
of
stay
social,
relevant.
to stay relevant. But what advice do I have for someone who wants to be a social entrepreneur? I would say do the hard work, but do it by making the loud noise. That's the advice. Do the hard work. Be actually have substance. Be doing real work. But don't do real work by then isolating yourself in one corner and believing that one miracle is going to happen. No. Do the hard work
Make
and
all
make the
noise.
loud noise.
Yes.
Let everybody know that you're the one doing it. Don't be ashamed. I'm going to leave you with these scriptures. Scripture says that he was not ashamed to be called the sons of God. So he didn't consider it robbery. Because in Nigeria, we are taught to be humble. It's
Respectful.
your own is too much. Make the loud noise. Let everybody know that you are the brain behind this problem that is being solved. That's how you attract opportunities to yourself. Naturally, all the values of this world will just start to come around you because people want to be associated with those who are doing good. And then the big brands that want to fund it also want to be associated with those who know how to make the loud noise.
This has been a masterclass, guys. Masterclass for free. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. The Mayegun of Orile Agege, Otuba himself, has just given us a masterclass on social entrepreneurship. It has been absolutely fantastic
Thank
having
you.
this conversation with you.
Thank you.
I have personally learned a lot. I will go back and watch it and then type my own notes. I know you guys are taking notes. Fantastic. But thank you so much
Thanks
for
for having
coming
me. Yeah.
on board this podcast
Thank
and
you for
sharing such insights with us. Thank you so much. The journey of social entrepreneurship can be challenging, but it is definitely rewarding. I mean, from what we've heard, you know that it is definitely rewarding and it contributes immensely to building communities and societies that thrive. And that is why there's a future for social entrepreneurship, because we have to solve the wicked problems. And as Otuba has highlighted, set out to not just offer value, but create value. Who needs what you're working on? You've spent sleepless nights, hours creating these things. Who needs it? You have to plug in and connect with these people.
Yeah.
Don't isolate yourself. Make noise about what you're doing. We can't say it enough. You're doing good. Make noise about it. There are people who are not doing such great things and they're making a lot of noise. So what are you waiting for? You also make noise about what you're doing. Thank you so much, our amazing audience, for watching today's episode of our podcast. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? No, tell me and ask yourself, what exactly are you waiting for? So click on that button right now. Thank you. Subscribe. That's it. Notification bell. Do that also. So that when we post these gems, you are the first to see it. We have a lineup of change makers who will be sharing valuable information with us this season. So you absolutely want to plug in. And if you found this episode useful, I know you did, please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share it with other people who will benefit from the information shared. For more insightful episodes like this, visit our website at www.leapafrica.org/podcast. You can also follow us on our social media at Leap Africa on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn for more updates. Remember, consistency matters. So the journey of 1,000 miles begins with just one step. Until the next episode of the Youthful and Useful podcast, continue to create impact. Bye.